Verse 11. So now note that the word wormwood has two forms here. So if you look at verse 11, there's two forms. There's a capitalized form and there's a little form. And the latter is a description of bitter water. So it's just the descriptive word wormwood. But the form is capitalized as if it's the name, and it's the naming the star. So the name of the star is called wormwood. Now, in our corrupted Mystery Babylon public school systems, we've been conditioned to believe that stars are giant balls of burning gas located millions of miles away in space. So this is kind of the picture the Hubble telescope offers. It's NASA's depiction of stars. Interestingly, these colors are actually added in later as per NASA's interpretation of the star's wavelengths of light. So that's not what it looks like, obviously, but this is how NASA sells it to the public, that that's what the space looks like. Now, the ancients actually believed the stars were angels. Let's look at some scriptures and just sort of get a better idea of what they thought. So scriptures about stars as angels. In Greek, the word star is aster, simplified transliteration aster, and it's Strong's number 792. It's found many times in the New Testament, 24 times, but its definition is a star, or it could be also a luminous body like a star, or it could be actually interpreted as luminary, which means a bright, luminous body. So in the Bible, stars are often symbolic or representative of angelic beings. So this is kind of just important to know as we go through Revelation, that they use this word stars a few times. And just be aware that that word stars can actually be representing angels. And it'll just kind of help you with the translation of Revelation. If we're thinking gas giants whenever they mention stars, you're going to be confused. But if you understand that stars could represent angels, things make a bit more sense. So Matt 2:2, saying, where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. Some people would say that that's like an angel going into the east, right? So this star is kind of moving, but that could be like an angel, a luminous body moving towards the east. When they heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star, which they saw in the east, went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. You know, they actually anthropomorphize the star. They make the star seem like it has some human or angel-like qualities to say that it stood over where the young child was. Just kind of something to note. Matthew 24:29, speaking of, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. Now, just bear in mind, just keep that in mind, because as we hear about Satan, it says about Satan, and this is in Revelation 12, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. We hear somewhere else in scripture about Satan bringing 1/3 of the angels with him. And so again, drew the third part of the angels of heaven with him. So again, stars, angels can be a very interchangeable word and term. Revelation 8:11. So this is just the one we're studying right now. And the name of the star is called wormwood. So, you know, the name of the angel is called wormwood. And the third of the waters became wormwood. So they could still become bitter, but those are two, like I said, two different words. And many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. And again, this is just a clarification that this hasn't happened yet. We haven't seen, you know, 1/3 of men die from bitter water or contaminated water. So again, just to clarify, you could always just take that word star in these verses and replace it with angels, and you'll get a more sort of full meaning of what it means. Revelation 1:20. This is the secret meaning of the 7 stars you saw in my right hand, and of the 7 gold lampstands. The 7 stars are the 7 angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 lampstands are the 7 churches. So it's very explicit. The 7 stars are the angels. So it makes it very plain. This is in Job 38. God is saying to Job, where were you when I founded the earth? Tell me, if you have understanding, into what were its pedestals sunk, and who laid its cornerstone, while the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. So Job 38 speaks of these stars and angels singing at the founding of the earth, these morning angels, these angels that were there from the very beginning, singing. And again, stars singing, that's kind of, again, anthropomorphized, but that could be an angel. So as discussed previously in Genesis 4, this is just a side note. In Genesis 6:4, some of these morning stars, some of these sons of God actually came down to mate with human women and created those Nephilim we were talking about earlier during the flood. And again, that's just very important. If that's something you've never heard of before, I'd suggest going back in some of the studies and looking up Nephilim or just researching on your own. Book of Enoch's a very good source for extra information on the Nephilim. But it's something you need to understand that there were these other beings on the earth and still are actually, and may come back depending on how things play out. All right, more scriptures about stars as angels. 1 Corinthians 15:41. There is one glory of the sun, and another glory of the moon, and another glory of the stars. For one star differeth from another star in glory. Raging waves of the sea, foaming out of their own shame. This is from Jude. Wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. So there's this term here about wandering stars. And, oops, let's back it up here. So wandering stars are actually a reference to the planets. I'll get to this in a second, but the planets are actually called the wandering stars, and I'll tell you why in a second. But there's shame towards these wandering stars. These wandering stars are not a good thing, and I'll explain that in a second. Actually, let's go to the book of Enoch, so that I just mentioned. This is chapter 80 of the book of Enoch. And many chiefs of the stars shall transgress the order. So chiefs of the stars, these are the wandering stars, the stars that are kind of more prominent than a lot of the other stars. The chief of the stars shall transgress the order, meaning they will not follow the order that they were supposed to go in. They will not follow directions. They will not. We see here, I showed you this picture before of Polaris and how all the stars go in their proper order around Polaris. They kind of follow these perfect circles around Polaris. The wandering stars do not. They kind of go on their own course. And this is what the ancients noticed, is that these 7 bodies in the sky would actually follow their own course. They wouldn't go in a perfect circle like all the other stars. And so they gave them the name wandering stars. But just to carry on with Enoch here, and these shall alter their orbits and tasks, and not appear at the seasons prescribed to them. And the whole order of the stars shall be concealed from the sinners, and the thoughts of those on the earth shall err concerning them, and they shall be altered from all their ways. Yea, they shall err and take them to be gods. So a lot of the ancients worship these planets as gods. I'll get to more on that in a second. And evil shall be multiplied upon them, and punishment shall come upon them so as to destroy all. So these wandering stars were rebellious to God. They did not follow their paths. They did not stay on the path that they're supposed to, like all these other stars that follow around Polaris. These wandering stars or luminary bodies did their own thing. And people worship them as gods. And we talked about how if you follow sin, or if you err from God, rebel from God, evil will kind of come upon you, calamity will come upon you. And that's what God is saying here. Evil shall be multiplied upon them. Now, the term aster, star, planetes, in Greek means wandering stars. Unlike the other stars and angels that stay their course around Polaris, these wandering stars make their own course. And as mentioned in Enoch 80, they're worshipped as gods and are even assigned to days of the week to honor them. So each of these bodies in the sky, these 7 classical planets, they used to call them, the sun, Sunday, the moon, Monday, Mars, Tuesday, Mercury, Wednesday, Jupiter, Thursday or Thursday, Venus was Friday, and Saturn was Saturday. So these planets were given honor in terms of being named planets of the week. And, you know, if you look at sort of Norse mythology, that's where a lot of these things come from. It's pagan. Norse mythology is very pagan. And that's what a lot of pagan belief was, with these stars were like worshipped like gods. The whole idea of false worship, whether it be paganism, which worshipped all of these planets, Catholicism, which worships the sun. If you actually look at a lot of old Catholic paintings, you'll often see a golden sun-like circle behind the heads of a lot of the people in their paintings, and that's their worship of the sun. Islam actually worships the moon. You'll see that in a lot of their flags, and you'll see it also in a lot of their symbols and things like that. And so when people worship these planets, it's actually very displeasing to God. And this error will actually, this false worship will lead to judgment. Again, at the end of the day, it should only be Jesus. I'm going to play a couple of videos, and it'll really question what you're watching when you're looking at stars. Again, you've been conditioned to believe that they're gas giants millions of miles away. But when you actually take a simple Nikon camera and you look at these things, you'll see that they don't appear to be what NASA is telling you. You'll notice it from the video. So there's a couple of short videos here that'll play about 3-4 minutes each. Okay, so this is a very similar video. I'm going to play it for just 5 seconds just to make sure you guys can hear it now. I'll play it. Can you hear that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. You know what? I don't know why, but something was clicked off for some reason. Okay, here we go. Get the Holy Spirit tingles when I actually watch these. You know, the things that we see up in the skies, it's not these gas giants. Like I encourage you, go out into the rural area, look up at the sky and watch. I remember going camping one time and I just stared at the sky and it was just amazing. Like the stars actually just twinkle. They twinkle. They're not gas giants. They're not like these flaming balls of gas. They twinkle just like these videos show. And I looked at it with a binoculars. Obviously, it's not like this, but you can see there's this tinkling kind of changing color quality to them, just like this Nikon camera shows. Let's carry on. There's a couple of points I want to make. So let me just read from Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Now, there's waters that are above the firmament. So waters that are above the glass dome that covers us. And that's why when you look at these stars, they kind of have this tinkling quality to it. It's as if you're looking at them from behind water. They kind of have that shimmer kind of look to it. During Noah's flood, just as a confirmation of this model, the water came actually pouring in from the floodgates of heaven. So there's openings here that the water flooded down from. And they also came out of the fountains of the deep. So out of the fountains of the deep came a lot of water as well. And we see this actually in Genesis 7:11. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, on the 7th day of the month, on that day, all the fountains of the great deep burst opened, and the floodgates of the sky were opened. So water came pouring from above, water came bursting from below. And that's where you got all this water from that flooded the earth. And it was a worldwide flood. So just something to verify that. There's actually a really good video which shows the fountains of the deep in the Atlantic. So if you look in the mid-Atlantic, there's this thing called the Atlantic Ridge, and you'll actually see that the water came bursting out of there, and you can see along a ridge. If you look at, there's topographical maps which actually show sea depth, and you can actually see there's this big giant ridge, and that's where a lot of this water poured out from the fountains of the deep. I didn't include it in here, but it's something you can look up on your own for sure. Another video here to play. So this is just showing what stars are. Stars are actually can be generated from sound. And when they talk about the angels singing in heaven, the stars singing in heaven, this video kind of just like a little clue to how that can happen. So I'll just play this video here.
It's a process called sonoluminescence.
The first time I saw sonoluminescence was in a darkened room. I was transfixed to look at this spherical flask of fluid. And you look into the center, and in the center see a glowing blue-purple light, which could be seen with the unaided eye. It looked like a star in the heavens.
Seth Putterman called it the star in a jar, a tiny spot of bright light contained in a flask of liquid. This star in a jar is made when a sound wave is passed through a small bubble inside a flask of liquid. And this sound wave makes the bubble do something remarkable. First it expands, then it collapses. And this collapse happens so violently that vapor molecules trapped inside the bubble slam together and heat up so much that the bubble gives off an incredible burst of heat and light, several thousand times a second, giving the appearance of a star.
There's more in the video. It kind of just shows how you can use sound to make different shapes and lights and things like that. So again, just something interesting to watch. But the fact that sound can be used to generate light, and it can be behind water, it just kind of makes you really question, are stars these gas giants NASA says? By the way, Nikola Tesla, smartest guy. He actually understood things, not like Einstein who just formulas and things like that. Nikola Tesla actually invented stuff, made stuff, used information that modern science still hasn't caught up to. He had an understanding far surpassing most other men. Sadly, a lot of his work and research was destroyed, burned up. His lab was burned up. They didn't want his information getting out. He had stuff about free energy and all sorts of stuff. So here's my question here. Could stars be angels? This is from 1 Corinthians chapter 15. There are also celestial bodies and bodies terrestrial, but the glory of the celestial is one, and the glory of the terrestrial is another. There is one glory of the sun, and another glory of the moon, and another glory of the stars. For one star differeth from another star in glory. And I showed you pictures of many different stars there, and the stars had their own different lights and their own kind of different ways of flashing and shimmering and shining and different colors. And it just shows that, you know, they have their different glories. They have their different look to them. So some ancient cultures actually believe that people became stars in the sky after they had died, receiving different levels of glory. Now, just reading through Daniel chapter 12, this is Daniel chapter 12 here. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. Michael was considered the angel that was over Israel. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. This is a picture of the end times, actually. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. This is a picture of the resurrection. Some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. They that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament. And it kind of just makes you wonder, okay, so does that mean that maybe overcomers can become the brightness of the firmament, can turn into stars, be in heaven with God? Something to think about. And this is just in comparison to regular believers. So this is not everyone. Some of them will, just wake up, some to everlasting life. I believe that verse is referring to the believers, but I believe this one is referring to the overcomers, they that be wise. This one, many of them asleep in the dust shall wake, some to shame and contempt. Those would be the non-believers. Another common belief is that each of us is assigned an angel, a guardian angel, which can be seen as a star watching over us. A couple more scriptures here. Matthew 18:10. So when talking about children, Jesus said not to think little of them, for their angels which are in heaven are always in communication with God. Take heed that ye despise not one of these little ones, one of these children. Despise here meaning think little of them. For I say unto you that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. Their angels, meaning that they have angels assigned to them. Something to think about. Acts chapter 12, Peter. So this is shortly after Peter escapes from the prison. And as Peter knocked at the door of the gate, a damsel came to hearken. A young girl came to the door named Rhoda. And when she knew Peter's voice, she opened not the gate for gladness, but ran in and told how Peter stood before the gate. So they were all kind of waiting. Peter was in prison. They were all waiting at Peter's mother's house, I believe. And Rhoda opens the door, sees Peter, and she doesn't even invite him in. She's just so excited to see him that she just runs into the house and tells everyone. And they said to her, "You are mad." But she constantly affirmed that it was so. Then they said, "It is his angel." They were sure that Peter died. Whoever went to prison when they were under the Romans, whoever went to prison wouldn't make it out of there. Like they would said it's impossible for that to be Peter because there's no way Peter can be out of the prison. So they actually assumed it was his angel. Just think about that for a second. Why would they think that someone at the door that looked like Peter, that talked like Peter, would be an angel? It kind of tells you about their beliefs. So they believe that adults had angels as well. So just like the children here have angels, adults have angels, which look and sound like their human counterparts. Interesting. One of the Hebrew traditions I've read is that they actually believe that everyone has an angel and a devil. An angel that kind of just watches over them, tries to tell them to do the right thing. It's kind of like those old things where they had the angel on one shoulder and the devil on one shoulder, just telling you good things to do. The other one's telling you bad things to do. And a lot of Hebrew belief was that we had an angel. Interestingly, the angel can look and talk like us. We'll probably never know for sure on this side of heaven whether stars are angels, but I can confidently say they are not gas giants in the sky millions of miles away. I'm going to pause it there, just open up for some discussion. If anyone wants to share some insights or thoughts or questions, feel free.
What about the wishing stars?
Which stars?
The wishing stars.
Wishing stars, the stars that fall, like that you wish upon? I don't know. It could be a star that's falling. You know, I had an interesting patient tell me a story how they were at home, they were barbecuing, and the star, this lightning bolt just came, crashed right in front of them. And you know that saying that, oh, it's like Satan falling from heaven like lightning. And they said that when this lightning bolt fell in front of them, they felt this sense of evil, just kind of when that thing fell down and right in front of them, right nearby them, not on them, but just right in front of them. Again, I don't know what to make of that. They said that. I have no reason to doubt their story, but again, it's just, we don't really understand the supernatural like we think we do.
I've definitely never heard this analogy of stars and relating it back to the Bible and how the days of the week, you know, came from the stars. And it's interesting because a lot of people, you know, when they take pictures who are involved in all of these angel witchcraft stuff, they're like, oh, there's an orb in the picture. That means your angel, like Archangel Michael, is with you and they're trying to send you a message and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? So one of my thoughts, I wonder, is, you know, we have a soul, right? And some people, is that soul up there? Is it like light, right? There's this movie, 21 Grams, right? And it's based off this guy who did this experiment. He took 5 people and he weighed them. And the moment they died, 21 grams of weight left their body. Average, not exactly 21 grams, but average. And people thought the soul is leaving the body, right? And can that soul be residing up there? Because the soul wouldn't be a person. You can't have a person way up there. But can it be a light? Can it be a sound, something making a sound in the water and generating a light that we see from down here? Just like kind of ants would never understand the ways of human beings. Human beings can't really understand the celestial or the, you know, supernatural, what's going on up there. You know, we talk about these processions where we have Polaris in the center and all these angels kind of falling around. You know, spiritually, that means that maybe they're following the course that God has set for them. But what we see is we just see a physical thing of this light in the center and then all these other stars kind of falling around it. Again, nothing I say is definitive here, but it's just things that you'd question, especially based on what the Bible tells us.
Well,
yeah, Chris, I've seen that 21 grams as well, and I've heard of some people talk about it as like almost like a Wi-Fi signal, like our soul is somewhere else, and like we're tapped into it because our body is the only one that can do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, who knows, right? The insert shoulder shrug emoji here. But I can tell you one thing for certain, and that is I do a lot of research on things like ancient myths and folk tales and lore. And the 4 most common myths found throughout the entire world can all be found in the Bible. And the one most common myth, 90% of world cultures, when you start studying these sorts of things, you'll find it yourself, 90% have the flood. So some major cataclysmic flood-like event, certainly, to my mind anyways, did happen.
Amen. Thank you. Yeah, that's very good, Craig. They actually, most, pretty much almost all cultures actually have a flood narrative as part of their origin stories. You know, in China, their word for 8 looks like a boat. And it's just Noah, right? And his 3 sons, 3 daughters, wife. 8, and that's kind of their founding story. So it's just interesting how a lot of these cultures have that. Even indigenous cultures, they actually, their world starts off with a great flood. So yeah, thank you for mentioning that. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So Chris, where did you say the water for the flood came from? You were talking about above and below.
Yeah. So in Noah, Genesis 7:11 that we looked at, they said the floodgates of heaven opened. So that's the firmament. So water came pouring down from there. And then the fountains of the deep. So there's actually water below us as well. And that water poured out from the ocean floor.
So in fact, we have not traveled beyond the firmament.
We have not. They actually do experiments where they've sent rockets up into the sky, and they hit a glass. You can hear it, you can see it. When proper rockets being shot up into space. There's actually, they were launching missiles. This is Operation High Jump and Operation Dominic and Operation Fishbowl. So these were operations they were running in the 50s and 60s, and they were sending missiles against the firmament, and they would just fall and crash. They realized that that's why they called it Operation Fishbowl, because it's like we are in a fishbowl.
Yeah, they just bounced. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally.
Chris, would you be able to put that 21 grams as like one of the attachments for the
experiment
for next week? Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I can put it in there. I did send the video actually in one of our older Bible studies in the Book of John. I talked about that study. Yeah, I can find the link again. So verses 10 to 11. So looking at these verses again, the great star could be interpreted as a fallen angel. So this wormwood could be interpreted maybe as a fallen angel, burning like a lamp and having the name wormwood, Whether seen as a star or an angel, the end effect is still seeing the drinking water made bitter and poisonous. So let's go on to the fourth trumpet here. Jason, 12 and 13, please.
Sure. And the fourth angel sounded. The third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars. So as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. And I beheld, and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, 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 to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels, which are yet to sound.
Thank you. So the fourth trumpet, the sun, the moon, and the stars are darkened by 1/3. 1/3 of the day and the night being darkened. So some interpret this as the sun and the moon being less bright, is somehow some have interpreted it. But Jesus actually says in Matthew 24, let's read it. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. And the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. So what it means is it's actually not less bright. It actually means that the sun will actually be darkened, not give light for 1/3 of the night, and the moon will not give her light for 1/3 of a 1/3 of the day, and the moon will not give her light 1/3 of the night. So it's actually meaning a time reference, not so much what it's looking like, appearance. Verse 13, these would appear to be supernatural events that should wake people up. So I believe that as these things are happening, people should be waking up out of their slumber, realize that what they've been told about the world is not true, it's not accurate, when they're seeing all these supernatural signs happening. I believe Mystery Babylon has a play to kind of tell people that, hey, this is all natural, these are all explanations for all these things, and that's kind of why they've set up this ball earth model, why they set up this kind of big universe, why they've set up these aliens kind of potentially coming. They're setting it all up so that when people see these supernatural things, they'll just say that, oh, okay, this is all within the realm of possibility, this can be all explained. I think it's setting them up, but when we see these things, it'll be hard to explain. Even the very elect can be deceived. So that kind of ends the study. I want to do just one quick follow-up to last week's study. Some of you might have heard this, but this is actually brand news to me. I just heard about this today. But apparently India landed on the moon. They landed a craft on the moon. I'm just gonna play this video. Oops.
Oh, it's a good one. Yeah.
Oops. Okay, play from current.
Altitude is being brought down.
Oh, okay. So I'll just start from the beginning here. All right. So this is footage. This is from August 23rd, 2023. And India claims to have landed a spacecraft on the south pole of the moon. This is real news.
The altitude is being brought down from 800 meters. And we are nearing and approaching the lunar surface. Currently, only 2 engines are now being fired. And we are nearly at 0 velocity, vertical and horizontal. We were hovering and now we are approaching the moon's surface.
That's the India's prime minister, so he's watching on. The graphics here are horrible. It looks like a bad video game, but just watch him wave the flag. You'll see in a second as he's happy about the landing.
We can see the Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, who is here to encourage us, and he is critically looking at the visuals.
जी हाँ, आप अपनी स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि हम लैंडर मॉड्यूल.
People are applauding. Let us all wait to hear from the Secretary Department of Space and Chairman ISRO, Shri S. Somnath.
लैंडर मॉड्यूल पूरी तरह से सेफली और सॉफ्टली चंद्रमा के सतह पे लैंड हो चुका है. ये हम लोगों के लिए बहुत ही गर्व की बात है. हिंदी में एक कहावत है कि चंदा मामा दूर के, लेकिन अब हम ये कह सकते हैं कि चंदा मामा अपने घर के.
बहुत ही उम्दा. The hard work of the entire ISRO community has come to fruition.
So I don't know if you guys caught that, but it just looks horrible. Like it doesn't look real at all. I don't know if you guys thought it looked realistic. I found it really funny when the prime minister, he's waving the flag very vigorously, and then he starts slowing down, and there's this expression on his face like, how can anyone take that footage seriously? Just want to say that it looks so bad. I sent this out to a few people today, and they said it looks even worse than the 1969 Apollo footage. Just sharing that.
Yeah, but the 69 movie, he was the one filming this one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's bad.
You know, the one with the 69 footage, it was always because I you know, you got to peel that onion, and once you start working backwards to all the lies, the one that always made me laugh was I was listening to a podcaster, and he said when the craft left the lunar surface, he goes,
yeah,
who did they leave there to record that?
It was in a studio, you know that. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
The junk they would have had to leave there would have looked like a movie set.
Yes. There, you know what? I have a video we did a few, maybe a year or two ago now, where we talked about the moon landing, and you know, maybe I'll put that up on the BitChute at some point. But yes, very fake. Now, speaking of fake and speaking of taking people seriously, I want to show you guys this video. I'm just going to show a couple of videos, just kind of in relation to what we talked about last week. So this is Justin Trudeau.
We need to make sure people continue to be able to have access to their freedom of speech, their freedom of expression, freedom of information. But recently, over the past few years, a whole bunch of people have decided that the world is flat. And they hang out with each other, and they find different ways of proving to themselves that the earth is flat. Now, that may not seem like a very serious thing, because someone who believes the earth is flat is not going to necessarily cause tremendous harm to everyone else. But the ability to start to believe something that simply isn't true actually starts creating real problems and can bring us as a society to very scary places.
So, why is he so afraid of us looking into and discovering for ourselves the earth is flat? It's because his lies and those of his overlords are immediately exposed when people realize there's nothing beyond our earth other than the great Almighty himself. He just seems so scared there. It's like it's like when he ran away from the truckers. One more video. Actually, before I say this one, this is from the talk. This is to say that was a real event. That wasn't some thing that was made up. But this is him talking from an audience, March 16th, 2023. This was in Mississauga, Ontario. There's a link there to the talk. It's actually a Toronto Sun article about his talk. But the crowd was a bit bewildered about his speech. And you'll see it towards the end of this video, just kind of, what is he talking about here? Why is he bringing this up? And last video, and then it's actually the end of the Bible study, but I'll play it here for you guys.
We know that the earth is round. Right now with the internet, a whole bunch of people have decided that the world is flat. Now that may not seem like a very serious thing. Governments used to have the ability to protect people. But now the internet means there's a lot of people spending a huge amount of time in places that governments have no ability to keep you directly safe from. If a shipment of Nazi propaganda was coming over to Canada, well, border guards could stop it at the border and make sure that it wasn't distributed in bookshops across the country.
They were just very bewildered what he was talking about there.
That's good. That's good. But, like the juice box's water drink thingy.
We know.
So that's it. Open for discussion. If anyone wants to just bring up anything or talk about anything, it's free season. Just go ahead.
I see the aspect of Matthew, and Jesus said, "What the disciples asked him, what's the sign of thy coming in the end of the age?" He said, "Take heed that no man deceive you. And the truth is in Jesus Christ." It is simple as that. And it's to hear his voice and to quiet our hearts to hear. When you look at this, it's just more blither. It's just unbelievable. Men trying to justify that there's no God and that we rule the place. It is the saddest thing when you look at it.
That's Mystery Babylon's plan, right? Tell people that there's countless worlds out there, tell people that we've been here for millions of years, and it's all just part of their agenda that, you saw the stars today, like, hey, they're not gas giants, right? But in 1903, Rockefeller bought up all the, John D. Rockefeller bought up all the schools. He started heavily funding all the public education schools. And what he said was I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. And that's how they've trained the public education system, is now they just teach people how to work, how to operate the machinery, but they never teach them how to think critically, think about what they're being told, analyze things. That's kind of the generation we have today.